You won't believe what Buckingham Palace has just pulled off. After years of whispers, years of silence, and endless speculation, the palace has finally done the unthinkable. They've ripped away Archie and Lilibet's royal identity with the coldest, most brutal move imaginable. Not through speeches, not through arguments, but with their oldest weapon, paperwork. Cold, legal, irreversible documents that slice through lives like glass. And in one ruthless stroke of the pen, Archie and Lilibet's claim to royal titles, to their place in history, is gone. Completely gone. And here's the kicker. It wasn't about petty family feuds. It wasn't about Meghan's rebellion or Harry's Netflix confessions. No, this was about protocol. Cold, centuries-old protocol that cares nothing for emotions, nothing for family tears, nothing for the cries of children. This is the monarchy reminding the world. Lineage comes before love, and order comes before affection. But why now? Why did the palace stay silent for so long, only to move with such icy precision today? To understand this, you've got to rewind history more than a century back, all the way to the reign of King George V in 1917. Europe was drowning in war, monarchies were toppling like dominoes, and survival was on the line. George V, desperate to protect the Windsor line, issued a decree that would echo across time. The letters patent, dry, boring legal jargon at the time, sure, but make no mistake, those papers rewrote the rules of royalty forever. From that day forward, no child could be called prince or princess unless they checked 3 unforgiving boxes. First, they had to be of legitimate royal blood. Second, their birth had to be formally recognized and recorded by the crown. And third, they had to be tied to the Church of England through a valid christening. No exceptions, no loopholes, no but we're special. The monarchy sealed its bloodline with an iron fist, and over 100 years later, those rules slammed down on Archie and Lilibet like an iron door. When Archie was born in 2019, the world cheered. Smiling pictures, glowing headlines, a baby who symbolized hope and unity. But behind those smiles, the trouble had already started. And it began with a single piece of paper, his birth certificate. At first, Meghan was listed under her full legal name, Rachel Meghan Markle. Normal, expected, nothing odd. But then, boom! The document was suddenly altered, her name erased, replaced with the cold title, Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. Now let's be clear, birth certificates aren't press releases you can tweak for image. They are permanent legal proof of identity. So why was Meghan's name scrubbed? She claimed the palace forced her to do it. Palace aides swore it was her decision. Neither side ever backed down, and suddenly the very first legal footprint of Archie's life became a battleground. That tiny crack in the official record? For the monarchy, it was everything. Because once legitimacy is questioned, the foundation begins to crumble, and the crown never forgets a crack. Then came 2021. Meghan and Harry welcomed their daughter, Lilibet, but this time the palace wasn't playing games. There was no royal announcement, no traditional proclamation, no doctors signing off with pomp and ceremony. Instead, the world found out about her birth through a slick press release from California. For centuries, royal births were sacred events, stamped, sealed, and preserved as part of British history. Every detail mattered. Where the baby was born, who was present, which doctors signed, how the crown acknowledged it. But for Lilibet, none of that happened. It was as if, in the eyes of the monarchy, she had been born outside the walls of history itself. And when Meghan proudly announced Lilibet's baptism in California, smiling through photos and celebrating like any mother would, the palace turned its head. Why? Because in the icy eyes of royal protocol, that baptism didn't count. It wasn't sanctioned by the Church of England. It wasn't recognized by the crown. To the monarchy, it wasn't a baptism at all, just a family party with holy water. Without that recognition, without that invisible seal of legitimacy, Lilibet wasn't bound to the church, the crown, or the royal record. She was left adrift, celebrated by her parents but ignored by the institution that decides who matters and who doesn't. And the whispers grew louder. Whispers that Archie and Lilibet were slipping further and further from the royal story. Behind closed doors, things weren't as calm as the palace wanted us to believe. Meghan might have brushed it off publicly, but Harry, he was cracking. Insiders whispered about late-night phone calls. Harry on the line, his voice trembling, pleading with his family back home. He wasn't asking for himself. His exile was already written in stone. But he begged, literally begged, for one thing, that his children not be erased. That Archie and Lilibet be allowed their rightful place in the royal record. Imagine the desperation of a father who still believed that blood, royal Windsor blood, should matter more than politics. But what did he get in return? Cold silence, brutal replies. Aides reportedly reduced his heartfelt cries into a single cutting sentence. This is not about emotion. This is about order, lineage, and the future of the crown. Just like that, The words landed like a death sentence, not for Harry, but for his children. And soon enough, the hammer dropped. Quietly, efficiently, without fanfare or even a public announcement, Buckingham Palace struck. Archie and Lilibet were stripped of everything: titles, succession rights, ceremonial roles, even recognition in the official royal history books. Yes, you heard that right. The pages that preserve the monarchy for centuries to come will not carry their names. They have been erased, written out as if they never existed within the royal bloodline. From Prince Archie to just plain Archie. From Princess Lilibet to simply Lilibet Diana of California. That's not just cosmetic, that's legal permanent. A brutal downgrade that takes them from heirs of the Windsor line to just children growing up in Hollywood. And here's what makes it even more chilling. In the royal world, titles aren't just fancy add-ons. They are keys. They open doors to history, cement places in lineages, ensure protection, and guarantee a role in the centuries-long story of the crown. Without them, Archie and Lilibet aren't rebels. They aren't exiles. They're outsiders, completely erased from the monarchy's narrative. Let that sink in. Meghan and Harry spent years painting themselves as rebels, the couple who dared to defy centuries of tradition. They gave interviews, signed Netflix deals, wrote books, aired dirty laundry. They built a brand on being the royals who refused to bow. But here's the devastating twist. The palace played the long game and understood the rules far better, because rebellion only has meaning if the crown still claims you. The second it erases your name, you're not a rebel anymore. You're simply gone. That's the genius and the cruelty of Buckingham Palace. They didn't need to fight Meghan and Harry in the press. They didn't need to scream louder or push back against Oprah interviews or Netflix documentaries. They simply waited, silent, patient. And then, with one cold stroke of a pen, they stripped Archie and Lilibet out of the line of succession, rewrote the records, and cut the final cord. It wasn't a scandal, it wasn't a feud, it was erasure. Now, Archie and Lilibet won't grow up with titles, protection, or a place in the royal story. They'll grow up in California. Yes, loved by their parents. Yes, free from the palace's suffocating rules. But they'll also grow up absent from the only record that matters in monarchy: history. And let's not pretend Meghan and Harry don't feel this blow. Their entire brand, their identity, was built on rebellion against tradition. But if their children aren't royal heirs, if they hold no titles, then what rebellion even exists? Without heirs, there's no dynasty. Without titles, there's no rebellion. Just silence. A silence louder than any Netflix special or memoir could ever be. And in that silence lies the most devastating truth. The crown doesn't bend for emotion. It doesn't bend for popularity or fame. It only bends for order. And when that order is threatened, it slices away anything that doesn't fit, even children, even Harry's children. And so here we are. The scandal that started with whispers of birth certificates, of missing baptisms, of palace silences, ends with the coldest act imaginable: erasure. Buckingham Palace didn't shout, didn't argue, didn't trade blows with Meghan and Harry in the tabloids. No, they wielded silence like a sword. No headlines, no interviews, just the stroke of a pen that forever rewrote history. Archie and Lilibet, once seen as the bridge between tradition and modernity, are now simply children of California. Not princes, not princesses. No place in the centuries-old story of the Windsor dynasty. They'll grow up loved by Meghan and Harry, no doubt, but also carrying the cruelest inheritance of all: absence. An absence carved into official records. An absence that no fame, no Netflix deal, no global stage will ever replace. For the palace, the matter is finished. The monarchy survives, its line sealed tight, unbending, unbroken. But for Meghan and Harry, this silence is a wound that will never heal. And for Archie and Lilibet, their names may echo in celebrity gossip, but not in royal history. The crown has spoken, and its silence is louder than ever.